Hey guys, Palsteron here, and today let's talk about my day 3, day 4 update for my Explody Ballista. So this day was just absolutely immense. Not only was I able to respec into cold explosions with Apogee of the Frozen Light and Morning Frost, I was also able to capitalize on some new tech. Or not really new tech, but at least it was new for me. Now, a user by the name of Brian Dumbles actually suggested last time in the comments that I try out Gambler's Fallacy, which is usually a meme amulet that you can get while leveling, right? But there's an upgraded version as well that gives you a little bit of crit multi. You can also get legendary potential on it. For example, I got mana regen, a tier 7 roll right there. You can also get 2 or 3 LP if you get really lucky. And when I first saw this amulet, I was like, no way that works. It's too good to be true. But then the more I thought about it, the more it just made sense. Why wouldn't it work, right? You're not hitting yourself. Your minions are hitting. So that means that the 100% critical strike chance from the Gambler's Fallacy is always up because your Ballistas get 100% of your crit if you spec into those nodes in the Ballista tree. And I also read into people using this amulet in the past for similar things, for example, for Disintegrate. And I explained this interaction right after the intro section, but TLDR, I more than tripled my damage. The defensiveness basically stayed the same. I'm still one-shotting stuff in 370 corruption currently, and I don't see this build falling off anytime soon. This is by far the strongest build I've ever played in last Epoch. The one thing that maybe came close is like 5 years ago, whenever Wraiths came out, there was like a Poison Wraith build, which was ridiculous. It got nerfed. It got basically eradicated immediately. That's the only thing that maybe comes close. But yeah, just the sheer AoE plus the damage plus just everything. Yeah, I'm super happy with it, but let's get into the tech. Now, this all revolves around the Soul Gambler's Fallacy. There is also a Gambler's Fallacy, which, as you might have known, you actually get as a quest reward very early, I think at like level 8 or level 9. On the Soul Gambler's Fallacy, as you can see here, you can actually get LP, which in this case I used for mana regen, which is very, very strong. And then you also get a little bit of crit multi. The +2 necrotic spells doesn't do anything for us. But in general, this is an incredible upgrade. Now, what it says is plus 100% critical strike chance if you have not dealt a critical strike recently. Now, this is not 100% increased. This is 100%. You're always critting. No matter how big your crit is, you're always critting. But the huge downside comes next, which is 50% less critical strike chance if you have dealt a critical strike recently. However, turns out that we are not critting on this build. Our Falcon is a minion. It's not us. We're not critting with the Falcon. Dive Bomb, which I actually replaced with Puncture with, we are not critting. Puncture would have been a problem, so we had to replace Puncture as our mana generator, which now Dive Bomb does, and a lot of mana regen on top. We're going to talk about that as well. Smoke Bomb doesn't hit, Shift doesn't hit, and the Ballista is actually a minion, and the Explosion is on the minion Ballista tree, which means that it also counts as a minion. So that means that this amulet basically just gives us free 100% crit. Now, it's not free, quote-unquote, obviously, because an amulet can have a lot of good stats. So, for example, if you have an Omnis or something like that, then you might want to think to go Peak of the Mountain instead, right, for the helmet slot. But in general, I think this is incredibly hard to beat. Now, I was going to go Explosive Trap in endgame, but you cannot, just to point that out once again. You cannot go Explosive Trap because then you're actually hitting and you're connecting. And that means that your Soul Gambler's Fallacy doesn't work, which I think is personally not worth it. Now, the advantages of Explosive Trap, once again, is that you get more armor shred. You can get some cold shred down here with cold snap mines. That is all good and well, but the amount of power you get from Soul Gambler's Fallacy is still insane. So basically what you do is, instead of going throwing speed in the prefix, you're going mana regen. You're kind of making up for that, and in general, the builds are pretty damn similar. Now, in case you don't know, the way you acquire this amulet right here is from the Soulfire Bastion key. Now, if you have a key and you right-click it, the map pops up and it tells you exactly where it is. So you might not be there yet. You just have to path up. It's during the campaign. Now, this is from my stream today. You don't really have to do much. You just have to go through the dungeon. You don't have to farm it at higher tiers, so it's hard. You can always gamble for this amulet. This amulet can drop from tier 1, it can drop from tier 2. In fact, I just speed farmed tier 2. As long as you have the keys, you are fine. So as you can see right here, I'm just going through it. It has like a necrotic fire theme. You can like follow the rules if you want to, but if you're in any way, shape, or form tanky and you have any sort of damage, you're just going to completely obliterate this dungeon on tier 2. As you can see right here, this was even before I respect and before I tripled my damage. And after you do this, you will basically go through the last door, and there's going to be this gambler over here. And this gambler is kind of like the gambler you see in the city. However, it costs souls to gamble with, and it has a chance to give you uniques. It also has the chance to give you exalted items, but the biggest thing here is you want to go to accessories, and then I guess you can't see it perfectly right here because behind me is just another thing of me, but as you can see right here, there's an amulet, and there was actually a few more. So usually you get between 1 and 4 amulets to gamble on, and from my experience, it's like on average 15 amulets you have to gamble for in order to get one of these. If you get one of them and you have 1 LP, then you won. Then you basically want to combine it with mana regen, and if you can do that, well, GG. If you get other stuff like, for example, physical res or cold res to counteract the Morning Frost, that's still fine, but the more mana regen on this build, the better. But yeah, just to make this clear again, I'm just going to enter this real quick. If you're not comfortable with the higher tiers, just go tier 2. I also did that. It's just way, way, way faster. You don't have to think about dying or anything like that. You can just rush through. As with all gambles, though, you could hit it on the first try. You could never hit it after 20. So it is a gamble, but I think it's definitely worth it. Now, let's talk about the downsides of this, though, because now we have to replace Puncture, because if we use Puncture and we crit with it, that is our hit, then we all of a sudden get 50% less crit, which is very bad, right? So we don't want that to happen. But it's not that big of a deal because I honestly hate Puncture. Having to auto-attack in between, it's so goddamn annoying. So I wanted to go for mana regen anyways, and that is the first thing I did. I upgraded from like, I think I had 11 or 12 mana regen per second to 20. The first easy way to get it is on the amulet itself. Getting 1 LP on this amulet is actually not that hard. And then on top of that, I also crafted mana regen on my opal ring, and I have Rune of Creations at this point, which is, if you don't know, is a way to duplicate your items. So as long as you have crafting potential left, you can also duplicate it. So I just duplicated the ring, so I have 2 times mana regen. On top of that, you can also get it on your apogee. There's actually a mod that gives you mana regen and mana hybrid. That one is also incredible. Probably even GG, maybe even better than the flat damage. We'll have to think about that a little bit more. I also got new gloves, which have mana regen and mana in the implicit. And then another big thing is I added Dive Bomb instead. So Dive Bomb is the Falcon hitting. So it, once again, doesn't count as you critting. And what you do is you remove its mana cost to 0, from 12 to 0 with 3 points in Focused Hunter. And then you go over here to Rapid Pursuit. This gives you 12 mana back whenever you hit a rare or boss monster, which is huge. And then you also reduce the cooldown of your shift. So if there is a boss, what you do is with shift, you're already getting... So let's say you just spam your ballistas, right? You just spam away, and then you shift, and then this restores mana if it hits something, and it restores your shift cooldown as well. Your shift gives you mana back, so you can just do that for like, I think 2 to 3 seconds, and then you're back up to full. Meanwhile, your Falcon is also giving you mana back right here. Currently for me, this is, I think, plus 5 mana on a hit, which adds up quite a bit. So one big thing about the skill tree here as well is we removed all the mark stuff, because now we're not hitting at all anymore, so the mark stuff doesn't do anything, and we just added extra attack speed so we can get more mana back, and the rest I just put into damage. Honestly, I don't know where else to put it. It doesn't make much of a difference, but it is something. I also went for Go for the Eyes. Once again, Falcon is not really there for damage, but it still does like 10,000 to hit or like 20,000 to hit. So getting your crit on your Falconer, once again, means that it transforms the 100 crit from you to your Falcon. And having your Falcon crit also has one more application where you get health gain on crit. So now every single hit that your Falcon does gives you an extra 21 life, together with this one right here, which already gives you like 33 HP. If you put everything together, you get round about 100 HP whenever your Falcon hits anything, which is really important since we're not leeching. So that is a huge recovery thing as well. All right, I'll just show you an updated run with this. This is only, I think, like 204 corruptions or something like that. But yeah, I'll just basically show it to you. This is all that happens. You have the cold explosion, and this is basically one-shotting everything. What's actually this? Falconry helm? This one good? Decoy? No, it's pretty bad. So yeah, basically the same playstyle. It's just 3 times the damage. So if you guys already saw the last one, yeah. And in case you're wondering, no, I don't ever have to puncture. I don't ever have to do anything. Now that I have that much mana regen, everything is easy peasy. I don't even have to dive bomb at any point. So you can see the mage is now actually just getting one shot immediately. So yeah. Now it is a little bit more cancer on the eyes. I have tried around some settings, but it doesn't really get all that much better. I will say this, you don't have to go cold if you don't want to. The only reason to really go cold is the weapon. If you have a better weapon than Apogee, it's actually fine. The damage from Morning Frost doesn't have to be converted. It's already cold, right? And the only thing that happens is that the main skill does a little bit of fire. But it doesn't matter that half of your damage comes from fire and half of them comes from cold, because we're not really scaling any fire, any cold damage, or anything like that. So yeah, it's not that big of a deal. Apogee is very nice though for the extra levels, but you can actually beat it with a rare weapon. Now let's quickly look through the rest of my gear. What hasn't changed is my leather mask. It's still shit. I'm still looking for a better one. Since I now have the amulet, you do not need a Peak of the Mountain. The increased critical strike chance is completely useless, so there's no reason to ever do anything like that. You're just gonna stick with a good base. Obviously, a Falconer's Mask would be GG. As for my belt, I would love to have mana regen here instead of chance to find potions or like any other exalted mod, but this is what I had. Spider Silk Sash is just so goddamn good. It gives you 80 res. And yeah, as already mentioned, I mirrored this ring, which is quite nice. It has both cold and physical res, which counteracts the Morning Frost minus resistance that you get per dexterity. And it also has mana regen and dexterity, so it's basically the dream. Other than not being perfectly divine, the physical res could be a little bit higher. I'm not completely capped. I'm a little bit off because my idols also kind of suck. But in general, I'm super happy with this, and it will be incredibly hard to upgrade. I upgraded my gloves as well. I got Arcane Bracers, which have mana and, even more important, mana regen. Once again, every bit of mana regen helps. If you get to 20 plus mana regen, this build will feel absolutely godly all of a sudden. It has dexterity, crit strike avoidance. Don't forget that you're gonna see a lot of crit strike avoidance on my gear, and that is because crit strike avoidance converts to crit multiplier for your minions. So that is why you can go over 100 and it will still count. And then the Morning Frost. Now my Morning Frost, I only have 1 LP right now, and this is only tier 6 movement speed. Still nice to have though. The realistic dream would be having 2 LP and getting movement speed and dexterity. And if you won the lottery and you got 3 LP, maybe throw in some health or resistances or something. Now this relic is not that great, but it does what I need it to do. The poison res doesn't actually do anything for me anymore. I'm already capped. It has okay dexterity. It has +2 to Ballista, which I crafted on. +4 would obviously be insane. In case you guys are wondering, if you have a +4 or +3, the rest of your points should probably go into flaming shots. But if you're not going Apogee, then you don't have the +3, and then the rest of your points should definitely fill out the heavy bolts. And once again, a reminder, if you're using Morning Frost boots, you need to have shared enhancement on 3. That is very important. So otherwise, the damage conversion doesn't work. My body armor, still the same. Not great, but it does what it's supposed to do. And then I actually farmed up a new Cradle. I got block effectiveness, which is the strongest mod you can get on Cradle. And then endurance and LE res are not the best ever. Now, if you get cold or physical resistance, that is huge to make up for the Morning Frost. But in general, you kind of have to take what you got. I needed like 15 tries to get this. If you guys are wondering how to get these unique items with LP, how you can target from them, I will have a video uploaded later today where I will go over all of that. Now, when it comes to idols, this is a big one. So early on, we don't have much flat damage, right? Like base damage that all our multipliers multiply off of. But now we do have a ton of base damage because of Morning Frost, and we have to kind of fight with the downside of res. But what we're lacking now instead is crit multi. So what we want to replace our Ballista flat damage idols for is something that looks like this: critical strike multiplier and minion critical strike multiplier. This goes from 10 to 25. I have a perfect roll here and an almost perfect roll here. And this double dips because not only do your minions get 25%, you also get another 25% because you're also converting yours. So this stat alone is 50 crit multi. If I had better gear and I didn't need the resistances from these nodes right here, I would probably go full 4 of them. Now, obviously, you have to balance this because otherwise you're going to lose a ton of health. So maybe you're not going to go 4, maybe you're going to go 3. Or if you feel even more squishier, I don't know, like maybe go 3. I'm not really dying even in like 300, 400 corruption. So we'll see. We'll see how high we go. Other than that, all you do is cap your resistances. I'm basically just doing LE res. This one is terrible, right? I don't even have health on it, but this one's really good. Vitality gives you health and also poison and necrotic res. So do keep that in mind. That is very strong and coupled with physical res, which you need because, once again, the boots take it away. And you might have guessed it, the small ones, all they do is also give you some physical resistance. So there's definitely a lot of improvements to make on these. For example, this is only 7 out of 8. But you get the gist. As for blessings, these are not perfect yet, but I have farmed quite a bit for them. The Grand Light of the Moon goes up to 90 plus mana. This one you get from Lagon. It is incredible. This is also the only one you can really take from here. Do note that if you need physical or cold res, you should not get it from your blessing because then you would have to make up for losing this mod. Block effectiveness It's just way too crazy with your shield. Now, if you are not shield and sword, or shield and one-handed, I should say, and you go for bow instead and you're squishy, then you can do that. But I would not recommend that personally in endgame. However, if you do that, you obviously don't need the block. You just go for res. Then minion damage here, there's nothing really else that you'd want. You can also go for dodge if you want to, but I didn't really... I felt like it was overkill. Grand Resolve of Humanity. Here you can either go for all res, which is going to help you a lot, mitigating the boots. But if you don't need it for some reason, if you have some crazy gear, you can also go for Critical Strike Avoidance, which once again is crit multi, and then just straight up crit multi from the Emptiness of Ash. Now, as for passive tree, we had quite a few changes here. The first one is we removed Sapping Strikes because we're not using Puncture anymore. We do not need it. So 4 points freed up. I think we put 1 extra point in Guile because I needed it in order to fill up the 20 points, but otherwise there's nothing in here that we want. On Blade Dancer and Marksman, nothing changed. You just, once again, take all the points that give you +1 dexterity. But then on Falconer, a few things did change. Now, the first thing is we actually removed points from Handler. We don't need that base crit anymore because we are Gambler's Fallacy. If you're not using this amulet yet, do not put points out of that. That's obviously insane. Getting 5 base crit, very strong. But now we have 100% crit regardless, so it's very, very good. I also put 2 points into Crimson Skies. If you guys don't know, this doesn't just give you 50% bleed chance, it also gives you 5% less damage over time taken. And while these are not up always, in fact, they're usually only up 1 or 2 of them, less, like, damage over time is just the worst thing for this build. So just having that is quite comfy, but it's not a must-have. You can also put them into Mana Region, for example, right here. Now, other than that, what else changed? Oh, yeah. I put 5 points into Fencing Grace. Increased damage with a one-handed weapon, which should convert, or I'm pretty sure does convert, to the Ballista, because you do have a one-handed weapon, even though it's a bow skill. And then the 5-point bonus gives you 5% block chance, and then it also gives you block effectiveness per dex +2. And we have over 100, like 120, so this is like 240% block effectiveness. Even if the increased damage didn't work, which I think it does, though, this would still be worth it just for the 5-point bonus. But yeah, those are about the changes. We did reach level 100 on stream, which was pretty damn cool. Probably going to follow this up with a lot more level 100s, but I'm still not completely done with the build. I still want to gear it out a little bit. Once this is all done, I will put out a full build guide for people to kind of compile all these updates I've done. But for now, until that video, I'm pretty sure I've covered most of the bases here. If I upgrade some stuff, it's going to be very minor and not worth mentioning, but you can always check my latest gear on my Twitch over on twitch.tv/Palsteron. ! gear will give you my latest gear set, as well as that ! filter, my latest filters. But with that said, hope you guys enjoyed this build. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. And yeah, we're definitely going to do more from here on out. I'm currently kind of farming to get to the rank 10 right here so we can double our prophecies. It's still far way off. It's crazy how much reputation this needs, but this build I will basically take all the way to 10, however long that will take, and I will just upgrade the gear over and over. But yeah, until then, since I still don't have a slogan, see you next time.